Hello everyone and welcome to Dave's Tech Tips. Today we're going to look at creating a command bar. Now you might say, what is a command bar? And that'll be a great question because that doesn't exist in PowerApps today. Let me show you what I'm on about. So you'll see at the top we've got this little grey bar, and this looks very similar to what you'll typically find in something like Outlook or some of the other applications of Office, where you've got your actions that you might perform in the app in one place. Now what's nice about this is if I go and create a new one, let's just go and say this is my July break, and this is going to be for myself. So there's no validation in here, so if I can say July break and I can put in any dates whatsoever, you'll see that the commands update in this bar depending on where you are in the app, so it's context sensitive. And in addition to that, if you now go and resize the app or open it up on a different device, you'll see when it gets to a certain size, it'll actually move the buttons to the bottom, or the action bar or the command bar to the bottom. So because it's easier to interact with buttons at the bottom of the screen while you're on a mobile device. Now you might say, why didn't we just use normal buttons for this? So what's this thing about the command bar? And there are a couple of challenges with buttons, and we'll get to that in a few. But this allows you to, in a uniform way, create these buttons and then interact with the data. So I can go and select those items, and I can go and approve those, and or I can go and change the sort order, or if I have access, I can go and delete them. Right, so you could use buttons like I said earlier. There are some challenges, and if you use this command bar, which is essentially a gallery, it has some significant benefits to it. First of all, it's very easy to do the styling on it, so you can add some icons, you can make them look exactly the same, where with buttons it takes quite a bit of effort to actually do that. Second thing is it's easy to group them together like I just showed you here, and then if these were buttons, you'd have to worry about the X and Y coordinates for all of these during the responsive app design. Third is it's very easy to create new ones, and I'll show you that in a second. It's very easy to create new commands programmatically, so you don't have to really worry that much about the spacing and these sort of things, and hard code the spacing for the different buttons, and then worry about what happens when one of the buttons now all of a sudden has to be hidden, because that'll leave a gap. So with the gallery in the way that we're using this, you don't have to worry about that either. Then the next benefit is it's very easy to move the logic between applications. So if you have an app like this and you create a new app, it's very easy to go and copy that command bar to the new app, update the logic, and you're off to the races. You don't have to go and create all of your 10 or 15 buttons individually and then worry about the logic behind them. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you find this valuable, and if you haven't done so, please subscribe, and let's get cracking. Right, so here we've got a brand new blank canvas app, and first thing we want to do is just go quickly insert a label. I know this is the boring stuff, but just do that so to give you an idea of where it is that we're going. So we've got that. Let's go and change the color of the text to white. Let's go and center that text, make it a little bit bigger, go and change the text to something like my app, and it's going to change the fill to blue. Alright, so there's our header, and now right underneath that, instead of going inserting all of these different buttons, we're essentially going to insert a gallery. For this example, we're going to be using a blank horizontal gallery. You could also use blank or verticals. It really depends on where you'd like the action bar to be. So let's just resize this, put it underneath the label, and so now we can go and play with the sizing. Let's make it yay big, and we might just want to go and change the fill of this as well, just so that it's a little bit darker. So let's make this a light gray. Okay, so that'll do for now. Next, we want to go and add some detail into the item. So essentially we're going to have each one of the buttons or each one of the actions or commands represented by a record. So we're going to create a dynamic table which will then be referenced by the gallery to display the items. So first thing we're going to do is use the table command to then group, or then to turn all of the records that we're going to be passing to it into a table format so that the gallery can actually understand it. So to do that, we're going to specify a record for every button. So the first one is going to create a key property, and the key property we would just use to identify the specific command that was clicked on, so that we don't have to worry about hard coding the name too much. So if we go and call that key new, and we call the name new in proper case, later on we might want to change the name, but we wouldn't want to go and change the key throughout all of the logic. Alright, so we might, so that's why it's a good idea to split the two. So we might have a tip as well, and this will typically be the tooltip, where we say create new record, or whatever other information you want to add to that. There's too many quotation marks over there. Next we want to go and say what color would we like the icon to be. So for this one we can just use like a friendly green yellow, and next we can actually go and display or choose the icon that we'd like to display. So to do that, you can type icon dot, and then it will give you a list of the icons that are available. So for this one we're just going to use icon add, and then we're going to add one last property to say when this should be visible, and I'll show you how we use that in a second. So if we go and say for now, let's just say this is true, which means that this will always be visible. So if I go back into the gallery, I preview that, it's not showing me anything because I haven't added anything to the gallery. So first things, let's go and add a label, and then instead of displaying the icon in the label, which obviously makes no sense, PowerApps got that wrong. Usually it actually gets it pretty right, but they got it wrong badly. So we've got the name, and there you can see there's the new button or the new command or action ready to go. So what we can do as well is add an icon in order to just make it a little bit more appealing. So let's just go and add any icon. It doesn't matter which one you add. You can make it a little bit smaller. And then in the icon property, we can then tell that icon control which icon to display. And we're going to do that by saying this item dot icon. And you'll see there's the plus that we specified in that record in the items property for this gallery. Second thing we might want to do is just tweak this a little bit. So we might want to write a line, the text in this label, which will allow us to actually put the icon inside of the, actually I'm doing that the wrong way around. Just move that there, and then just move the label over it, and then we can make this template a little bit smaller. And now we can go and specify things like hover fill onto the label, just to give you some extra effect. So if we go and specify the hover fill, we can go and say that, let's just take color fade, and we're going to take the color of the gallery, we'll go and rename that now, dot fill, and we're going to just make it a little bit darker. So we specify a negative 10%. So theoretically, if we now hover over this, so it just gives you a little bit of an effect. I can see that the icon is still the same color, so I forgot to just change that as well. So there we're going to say this item dot color. Right, and you'll see immediately the icon color changes to our nice green yellow. Right, so there's the new button. It's almost there. We now just need to tell it what to do when you click on it. And it's important to remember that because we're using the gallery, we only have one onSelect event. So if we go to onSelect for the gallery, by default that's set to false. It's not going to do anything. And what we're going to do now is write the logic for what we want for each one of the different actions or buttons in this property. So to do that, we're going to use the switch statement. Switches are hugely powerful, and we're going to pass it a value and then multiple scenarios which it needs to evaluate against that value. So the first thing is the value that we're going to pass it is the gallery. I really need to go and rename that. Luckily PowerApps is good enough that it allows us to rename that later on. So then we're going to go and say get the selected key, right? And then we're going to say if that value is new, and this is where it's also useful to use the lowercase keys because you never have to worry about any of that. So if it's new, let's just send a notify. Let's just throw a notify onto the screen. This command is working. Okay, so if it's a new button that's being clicked on, then it's going to give us that command. So if we click on that, we say this command is working. So that's pretty awesome, and that's really as easy as that. Now this is where it becomes very cool, is if you want to add more buttons, all that you need to go and do is go into items and then specify them. So let's say in addition to the new, we also want a refresh. So let's just go and copy that record, and now we can go and say this is refresh. The label might be refresh, so then we might say refresh the records. And I'm just trying to see why this is giving me an error. It's because I didn't copy that curly bracket right there. So there we go, it's better. Color, we can make that gray, and then the icon would be, I think it's called reload. Yes, it is. And for now we're going to turn that, or keep that to show to true as well, so it's going to make that visible. And if we close that, immediately you'll see there's my refresh button also ready to go. So we just need to also go and program the onSelect on what to happen when we click on the refresh button. And now it's as easy as saying we're going to add another scenario, and this is the refresh key. And now we can say this command is working as well. So if we preview this and we click on refresh, you'll see there it triggered that formula. And obviously those formulas could be as complex or as simplistic as you like. You can write anything into that. There's no restrictions that I can think of that you're going to hit in the onSelect statement for that gallery. So we added the show command earlier, and ideally you might want to hide some of these actions depending on certain business rules or depending on where in the app the user is currently. So in the app that I showed you earlier, everything in that app happens on one screen. So we've got a gallery and a form on that same screen. So we have one command bar. We don't have to navigate anywhere else. It allows us to easily determine if the user is busy working in a form, then we can simply hide the gallery actions. Right, so let's just go and quickly rename this to something that'll make sense, and we're going to call this gallery command bar. And now we're ready to roll. So in the items property, we're now going to work with the show. So before we do that, we're just going to add a filter command around this to say that we're going to only show items for which the show property is currently set to true. So if I show you this command, make this formula bar a little bit bigger, you'll see that it's only going to show the ones that have true in the show property. So if I change that to false, my refresh is going to disappear all of a sudden. and we can now change that with proper business logic. So there you can go and say if the user, not that this is proper, this is hard coding it, so that's not ideal, but if the user is david.vanheden at kaboom.co.za, then we want to show the refresh, otherwise not. And because this filter command is looking for a true or a false in the logical test, and the show is just giving it the true or the false directly. So that's how this filter command is so simple. Alright, so there you can go and add any operator or any comparison, and in the example that I showed you earlier, that's now where it's checking whether the user is busy in a form, and if it is, then we want to show the save and the back buttons typically. We can now spend some time on just making it look pretty, working on the spacing, making sure that things like the tooltips and these sort of things have been specified. So to do that, just go into, typically you can do that on the icon as well as on the label. So tooltip, I just want to go and display this item.tip. So there we go, and we can do the same on the label. And it's beautiful how as this displays or is displayed on different records in the gallery, it just updates automatically. So you'll see there is the tooltip for the new, and there's the tooltip for the refresh. So also the sizing of these icons are not 100% right at the moment, so you can now typically go and spend time with the fine tuning that. The nice thing is again that if you update it in the gallery, all of the actions in that gallery automatically benefit from that update, which is one of the very strong benefits of using this method. So thanks for watching. I hope you found this valuable. There will be a follow-up video on this one where we will deep dive into the previous, or the app we showed you in the beginning of this video a little bit more. But the command bar is an absolute fundamental piece to that. So, and I'm sure you'll be able to use the command bar in your apps starting today immediately. It's one of those things that if you do that once, it's very easy to adopt that into all of your apps and then get that benefit from all of the existing apps as well. So thanks for watching. If you haven't done so, please subscribe, and hope to see you in the next video. Have a good day. Bye bye.